I know that fascism, generally speaking, is a lot more politically severe than like typical monarchy, but it is kind of crazy how if you took the modern Republican Party and put them in like America in 1974 or 1774, sorry, they wouldn't just be loyalists, they would probably be ostracized from either side. Genuinely. Like the British loyalists would be like, what the fuck? You don't think that our judges, which are given the de facto ruling of the king with their like fancy, I mean, it's not a joke. Like it goes beyond just like simping for authority. They're beyond loyalists because they're anti the legal precedents that predate American democracy. Like we got our shit from British common law. It goes before that. Like they would have been antagonistic towards the law 500 years ago in England. And anti-reality. Yeah. It is objectively true that 18th century monarchy was a more stable system than what Republicans want today. Monarchy persisted for thousands of years. Fascism burns itself out really quickly every time. Certainly the version of fascism we're getting here, which is like very deliberately anti empiricist. They don't fundamentally believe in anything. Well, they believe in power. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Obviously, they are lying. Like, Chuck Grassley is lying here. Chuck Grassley does not actually believe that it should be illegal for a federal judge to make a ruling on a federal decision. Because if he did believe that, he would stop every subsequent federal ruling that didn't agree with his outcomes. But he doesn't believe that, of course. It's like smash and grab fascism where they don't even really expect it to succeed. I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I think that there are plenty of people within the Republican Party who even now kind of think they're just playing a game. I don't think they understand what the stakes are or what they're doing or what the consequences will be. I think they understand now, like basically they're looters aboard a ship and they're prying up the floorboards of the ship to sell and repurpose. Like they don't seem to understand what the outcome's going to be. So Biden could have just ignored the judges blocking student loan forgiveness? No, and also I kind of don't think that he should have, mind you, because as, I don't know, anti-institutionalist as I am, I actually do think it's pretty bad order-wise to just like ignore judges. I'm not really on that Andrew Jackson hype train. You would need a pretty high stake issue, like higher stakes than like student debt forgiveness. I mean, we're talking like really high stakes stuff for me to start Andrew Jacksoning, you know? The problem ultimately is that Biden was a gigantic pussy and he refused to militantly advocate for the issue. It's the same problem the Democrats always have. Can you imagine how much farther we could have gotten culturally if the Democrats were capable of being even half as militant with their messaging as Republicans? If Biden had been on camera for multiple hours every day talking about how activist judges refuse to allow the American economy to grow by freeing newly educated students from the burdensome shackles of debt, the predatory debt that was foisted onto them because they were told they had nothing else they could do, nowhere else they could go. But obviously he can't do that and they couldn't do that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? You know, we all know. We all know. Congress has the authority to impeach federal judges for high crimes and misdemeanors, the same legal threshold which governs the presidential impeachment. They would need to first have to approve articles of impeachment against a judge in the House and thus convict the jurist during a Senate trial. But so far, the proposed judicial impeachments have largely been relegated to the most conservative corners of Capitol Hill. They're going to build towards this. It'd be so funny if the Pentagon did a thing. Trust me, you wouldn't like anything the Pentagon wants to do these days. Sponsoring a bill aimed to reduce the scope of nationwide injunctions. What the fuck? Dude, we're Russifying so quickly, man. It's happening so quickly. This accelerated? Yeah, like, we kind of can't make fun of Argentina anymore, can we? Because the federal government here in America under the Trump administration is more rapidly and more severely escalating the anti-democratic measures than Argentina ever did. Like, part of it is just how much power the American federal government has, right? Like, it's a lot more difficult for the Argentinian federal government to exercise that kind of proportional control over its people, just in part because the country is dealing with more severe economic problems. It doesn't have as many people, as much infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a bigger country, America, you know? But like also, damn, we are less than 2 months in and it's straight up like Hey, that's a wonderful judicial position you have here, buddy. Would be a shame if something happened to it. Like, is it this bad in Italy? Is it this bad in Hungary? My understanding is that if you extrapolate what the Trump administration is doing right now, it is significantly worse than either of those countries. And Hungary is a fascist country, or at the very least, its leadership is fascist, and they're a backsliding democracy. And Italy is literally controlled by Mussolini's party, the successor to Mussolini's party, essentially. It was very much this bad in Pakistan, where the military... Yeah, okay, Pakistan I could believe. Now we're getting down into the countries where, as a Hungarian, it's worse here. They rewrite the constitution regularly. No. What I mean is like an extrapolation. Like, what we're seeing right now, if we extrapolate what we're seeing right now to a broader logic. So right now in America, for the most part, nobody's life is different than how it was before Trump, except eggs are more expensive. What we're seeing is all of the dominoes being set up. And the extrapolation from this is that effectively any federal judge who rules against the government in any capacity is going to be removed from power in some way or another. And I know that's not like something that doesn't happen in other countries, but this in tandem with a bunch of the other measures. Basically what I'm saying is like the slash and burn, loot everything you can mentality that is being undertaken is incompatible with stable governance. I would argue that as bad as Hungary is, they are more stable than what this would look like continuing at this pace for just 2 years. Like, Hungary is compromised and a backsliding democracy, obviously. But we are talking about it's not even a matter of competence. We're crashing the fuck out as a government. It's not sustainable. We're going back to the pre-Magna Carta days. Oh, what happened there, Joseph? You really hit your head. Oh, democracy? Free trade? Globalism? Oh, that must have been a nasty fall. Come on, we've got to gather grains so we can meet the Lord's tax. Fucking... I mean, this is basically just the Skyrim intro. Is the U.S. more corrupt than China now? I think inarguably, for sure. Because the CCP is authoritarian, but they do engage in routine anti-corruption efforts. Not, by the way, like, entirely successful or wholly, like... I guess it's just, like, I can't think of any comparison to Elon. I genuinely can't think of anything in maybe world history that compares to Elon, where you have a democracy, because America is unambiguously a democracy up through 2024, I guess. And then the guy who buys a social media company, owns it privately, uses it as a propaganda apparatus, pays for the campaign of one of the candidates, and then becomes effectively like the de facto shadow president and sits there and dictates policy directly and gets to do whatever he wants, turns the White House into a car commercial for his vehicles because his shares or price is going down. Like, I don't know. I guess I just can't think of anything that even like stacks up to it in audaciousness. There might be like small countries where you have like a warlord who's funded by like an arms dealer, and the arms dealer is like allowed to be the vice president when the warlord takes over. I'm sure you can find versions of this, but in anything as large as the United States, or with as much of a robust democracy as the United States, I just can't think of a comparison. As dictatorial as all of this is, eventually it will collapse from sheer incompetence. Yes, I do believe that. As bad as things are, I do believe that. Though it might take a bit, and we might not all get to see it. But yes, I do think that. Me in 1933? Well, if you made it to 1946, then... And famously, nothing bad happened after 1946. Worst case scenario is that the regime somehow stabilizes. Yeah, because they'd be able to keep the suffering going on further, but I don't think they'll be able to. I don't think they'll be able to. Do keep in mind that as bad as things are right now, in spite of this like overwhelming propaganda onslaught, this across the board, this like massive wave, independent media, establishment media, whatever, Trump's popularity is going down, poll after poll. And this is the honeymoon period, you know? Now, it is possible something rebounds that, but I just don't know. Did Marx ever write about what happens when capitalists have enough power to push propaganda to convince people that everything's fine? Like in a capitalist realism, lumpen proletariat kind of way? Yeah, I mean, he did. I'm sure somebody's read it. I sure as hell haven't. No, I mean, material conditions, et cetera, et cetera. I guess it kind of comes down to, like, at the end of the day, the people have to believe that their leaders are making their lives better, right? Like, even the peasantry in a monarchy have to believe that their king is making their life better. And sometimes it's true, by the way. If you take the monarchy for granted, if you don't extend beyond that system, there have been in history good kings, queens, whatever, who have done a decent job securing resources, keeping people safe from threats, et cetera, et cetera. It's all graded on a curve, right? Even the people in North Korea, I would be willing to bet the vast majority of North Korean citizens believe earnestly that the Kim dynasty has worked to protect them from foreign influence, American diabolism, et cetera, et cetera. People have to believe that things are being made better because of their leadership. And I just don't think this administration can pull that off. I just don't. I don't think it. Vaush, I may have missed it, but how are things moving this fast? Was it just Heritage Foundation fuckery? Basically, everyone in power agrees with Republicans, or at least wants Republicans to cook, like all the wealthy and powerful people. They're pretty much all on the Republican side. Democrats are completely incompetent, and most of our like institutional checks and balances have been inert for decades at the very least. They have been like run into the ground and made useless, and the only reason they've operated up until this point is because of gentlemen's agreements.